Okay, so in this setup development environment, so I've abbreviated it, but that's what this means. We're going to help you set up your development environment. And as you saw, you already submitted your GitHub username. And as I mentioned, so I'm repeating a little bit here, is that once you submit it, I will invite you into our GitHub organization. So remember, there could be a little bit of a lag between you submitting it here and you being able to complete these steps. So if you're doing it later in the evening, know that it won't be until the next day, which is generally why I release courses a little early. Okay, so let's look into here, because when you first look into here and you scroll through, it's gonna may feel overwhelming. So we're gonna break it down into chunks. So first we're going to do is complete this part on GitHub. Okay, so step one is, again, that's referring back to I've invited you into our GitHub organization. You've already created your account, and now what we're going to do is invite you. Now you will get an email, right, about the invitation, and you can check your email for that. But if you don't happen to see it, or if you're just here, you can click on to this link, which will take you into that GitHub organization, and then you can accept the invite from there. Okay, so I'm already logged in, but I just want you to know, again, if you don't see the email, just click into here and you'll have it. So over here, we're going to create two repos. Now, in a sense, you can think of a repo just like a folder, but it actually is a bit more involved. But for this purposes, just understand you're going to end up creating two of them. One's going to be where you share work with only me, and this will be your private repo. And then you'll create a public one that you'll share with everyone in the class. Now, later on, we'll end up making this public one into an actual website, and I'll show you how to do that later. So, but for now, just know that what we're about to do, you have a naming standards, and I'll walk through and just show you by doing it, but just follow my naming standards. I tend to like, and in general programming, we have naming standards, so using those are important. So I'll just show you this, but you can come back and reference this if you need. All right, so for you, the thing you want to do is accept that invitation, and then you'll see on here there'll be a listing when you first get in. When you log in. Now remember, this is different. This is inside of our course. So if you were just inside of your own profile on GitHub, right, that's only yours. It's nothing to do with our course. So what you want to make sure is what you've done here is go into our course. I think I can do it. There's multiple ways. There's always multiple ways you can do anything in GitHub. This is just true. And you can say your organizations, or like I said before, you can just click on this link and it'll take you right back there. Okay, but you can also just type github.com/CIT93. Okay, so now that you're here and you're and remember this step, don't do it in your own, because if you do, it won't work as far as the way the course is set up. So you'll do this work inside of our GitHub organization once you've accepted it. So what we'll do is we're going to create a new repo. Okay, so we're going to do the private one first, and then we'll do the public one. So here we go. This is the private one. So the actual name will be your first name, your first letter of your last name, -PRI. Okay, and keep that format because that just makes it easier. I love how they give you these little neat inspiration. Here's some names, right? And I would say, name, private repo for CIT93. Okay. Now, in this case, you can select public or private, but by default, it's private, and you want to leave that. Go ahead and create a GitHub, what we call a README file. You'll learn more about those as we move through. And in this case, you'll also want to set up a git ignore. Now I'm going to actually show you how to update this for VS Code. VS Code we'll talk about in a little bit, but in just a minute I'll show you this. But we'll go ahead for now and just select the first one on the list. It's not going to matter, and I'll show you why. For licensing, we're going to leave this as it is, because if you were doing more advanced development, then you'd want to think about that. And so what we can do at this point, once you have everything selected and set up, okay, again, the name, private, README file, select the first git ignore. We'll talk about what that is, and we'll just go ahead and hit create. Now what this is going to do is going to create that repo now on the organization that is for our course. And you will be able to, only you and I will be able to see this, and you can tell it's private because it has a little indicator showing that it is private. Okay, let's do one more step here. It's the same step you'll do for the second one. But in here, I've given you a link to something called the git ignore standard VS Code setup. Okay, so you'll click on this link. Okay, this will just be a kind of a just one-time step to do it. Just makes our life later a little easier. Select everything, and then a couple ways you could do this is just I'm on my Windows computer, so Control C, right? Or you can just right click and hit copy, whichever way. So then you come back over here, come back over here. And that git ignore is already set up. Again, we'll learn more about what this means, but basically it's going to say ignore certain files in my local setup once we get there. So we'll go into here. And this is the default that it was set up. And if you come over here, and I should have done this already, but I'll make this just a little bigger. And then I'll hit the icon for edit. And then in edit, I'll do Control A, Control V, and then it pastes that in. So this is what we call you're changing your content on the web interface for your repo. But what you will do is commit changes. Now you're going to learn towards the end of this item how to actually do these changes on your local system. And these are committing these changes, and commits become really important in week 2. So we're just going to commit this change. We're going to basically save it. It gives you some default verbiage, and I would say just for now leave this so we have it. And what this shows you now, if you want to go back and click on your repo, right, is that now we have that. You can see the commit message. You can see when it was done. You actually can see the commits that's been done. There's been 2. We created it, was 1 commit, and then we updated it. That was the second one. And these will become important later. But if you want to see that file got updated, you can click here. All right, so now we have your first one done. So what you're going to want to do is now do the second one, okay? Same way, except this time, instead of PRI at the end, it'll be PUB at the end, right? So we'll just go ahead and do that one as well. So now I come back to CIT93. I'm going to again hit new. I'm going to again use the naming standard, but this time it's PUB. Now, by the way, your username, your name here is like whatever you want to go by. It doesn't have to be what's listed in the course. So now in this case, I'm going to hit public because this is going to be for everyone to see within the course and actually within the wider GitHub community. So really, this is public to everyone, not just our course. So again, I'm going to just select the first one, doesn't really matter, and I'm not going to do a license. So to review, make sure it's public, make sure it follows the naming standard, and then you're getting ready to go ahead and hit create. And we'll do that same step again. Okay, so now, by the way, just to show you, now this says public. Now, as students start to create repos, right, you will see their public repos, but you will not see their private ones. Only you and I will share those, as you know, only you and I will be able to see those. So just know that you'll see public ones come up, and we'll do more with that later. But so for now, we'll go back in here and do that same step. Since I still have this in my computer memory, I'll come in here, go to my git ignore, go to the pencil, select all this again, Control A, Control V, and go ahead and commit that. Use the standard verbiage, and we're good to go. Okay, so again, at this point, if you've done this step successfully, what you've done is you will now see 2 repos for you, for your name, your first name, and your first letter of your last name, -pub for public, -PRI for private. And then we'll move on to the next step, which is actually now taking these and cloning them, or basically creating a local version of them that we can then use locally to work on this class. Okay, I hope this helps you out. You're not ready to submit this assignment yet because we're going to do the next part. So I just wanted to kind of give these videos in a little shorter context. Hope this helps you out, and now continue on to the next one.